It is indeed a high honor to be able to introduce our guest speaker this afternoon. In 1969, he was a citizen of Boise State, and now he is the governor of West Virginia. In every respect, he demonstrates the opportunities we have as citizens of Boise State to become state leaders. A graduate of WVU and Marshall, a man who has served in government for nearly 40 years and who is dedicated to our success. Our speaker this afternoon knows how dreams can come true through hard work and dedication. He brought us a new education bill which is going to make changes which will help us greatly when we begin our college careers next year. And he works relentlessly to bring success to every West Virginian. So from one governor to another, let's welcome our governor, Earl Ray Tomblin.
Thank you very much, Governor. It's indeed my honor to be here today to speak to the elected members of the Boise State Legislature. We're certainly pleased to have you here at the Capitol today. As the Governor mentioned, I was a member of the Mountaineer Boise State many years ago, back in 1969, and it was a real experience for me at the time. I think that's probably one of those things that got me interested in politics, and to watch how the process worked, learn about it a little bit, and to learn about public service. And probably many of you in this room will have those same kind of thoughts when you finish the week this week. And it's a great program, and I'm glad that I was a part of it at one time. Let me just tell you a couple of things about myself. I come from Logan County. Went to WVU, and when I graduated from Chapelville High School. I was the first kid in my family to go to school, and so I was pretty excited. I had no real idea what I was going to major in or anything when I first went off to WVU, but majored in business administration. Went through, had a great time at WVU, and my senior year is when I decided to run for the House of Delegates. And so that was kind of an odd experience when you were 21 years old to file for the House of Delegates, and I was able to commute back and forth between Logan County and Lincoln County and WVU, and won the election, led the ticket, and I spent 6 years here in the House of Delegates and 3 terms, and I sat over on this section. I think the second row back for a while. Then, as administration changed, I was over on that side. In 1980, I ran for the state senate, and during my tenure in the Senate, which lasted from 1981 up through a year ago in November, when I took the oath of office as governor for the second time. I was a member of the Senate, served in various capacities there, including the chairman of confirmations, chairman of energy, industry, and mining. I was the majority whip, and finally, before becoming Senate President, I was the Senate Finance Chair for 8 years. And this is back in the mid-1980s, and as we've watched, and you all watched over the last several years, our country's been in a recession. Well, back in the 80s, West Virginia was in a huge recession. We couldn't pay our bills. The state employees, public employees, insurance cards were no good. Our bond rating was going through the floor, and it was not a good time to become finance chair of West Virginia and have to write a budget that was balanced as our Constitution requires. But because of those experiences, we were able to change the way we did business in West Virginia, and I think it served us well. We figured out that we couldn't promise more benefits or programs that our taxpayers could afford to pay. We learned that we had to live within our budgets. We learned that we had to pay our debts, and we started that back when I was finance chair in the 80s, and we have continued with that mindset in West Virginia. And so after 8 years as finance chair, went on to become the 48th president of the state senate, and served in that position for 17 years. That was the longest that any person's ever been the president of the Senate in the state. But going back to the finances, we had some of the worst pension programs or pension funds in the country. We were some of our programs, including our teachers' retirement system. The pension was within months of being completely bankrupt. And excuse me. So we put ourselves on a 40-year payout plan. We're over halfway through that now, and our bond ratings continue to go up. And so we're right now considered one of the best shaped, best states financially in the entire country over the kind of fiscal management that we've had over the last 25 years or so. So we are doing well as a state. We realize that when things do get tight, as they are tightening up some now, we've got to tighten our belts and live within our means. So that's kind of been the trademark of my administration, is the fiscal responsibility. With the governor mentioned in the introduction that one of the other things that we did this past session of the legislature, we addressed two major issues. One was the education reform bill. Many governors have tried to do it over the last several years, but this year we were able to come together with the teachers' unions, with business, with labor, the State Department of Education, the House and the Senate, and the governor's office, all working together to pass one of the major sweeping education reform bills that we've ever passed in West Virginia. And we're doing this with one thing in mind, and that's the outcome of our students' education, to make sure that each of you in this room and students all around the state have the kind of education that you need, whether you plan to go to college or not. But if you're going into the workforce, we want to make sure that you've got the skills necessary to go into the workforce to make a living for yourself and your families, your future families. Or also, we want to make sure that when it's time to go on to college, as many of you, hopefully most of you will be doing in the next year or so, and to have the skills where you will not have to have remedial education in order to get caught up with other students. We've a lot of changes in the education field, but the real purpose of the whole thing is for the students of our state. We've got to make sure that we've got a workforce that has the skills needed, that the employers are looking for, and are able to go in, fill those jobs, and move our state forward. Obviously, another problem we have in our state is our prison overcrowding. We've got over 7,000 inmates in the state of West Virginia right now, with over 1,700 of those backed up in our regional jails. And that's not what our original jails were built for, but that's where we're at now. But with our justice reinvestment, hopefully in the next few years we'll see our prison population decline with the bill that we passed and the practices that we hope to implement. So those are a couple of things that happen here. I'll tell you here in just a minute. I'm going to take some questions that you have, so you can be thinking about the questions you may have. After having gone down to the governor's office, you find that you never know on an hour-to-hour basis what your job is going to entail. This morning we had meetings planned all day, but when I got to the office this morning, we found that we had storms coming through West Virginia, really impacting many of our counties, in particular Roane County. So I spent the biggest part of the today calling in our National Guard, our Department of Highways, our DEP, our Homeland Security, all to make sure that the people in certain parts of our states, in particular Roane County, are taken care of. We've had rescue crews out doing water rescues of several elderly people. We've got our shelters open for those people who can't get home or whose homes are flooded, so make sure they're taken care of. And this was basically the very same thing we had to do almost a year ago when we had the derecho in West Virginia, where we had 53 of our 55 counties without power and with nearly 100-degree temperatures. And we're just fortunate during that period, Mr. Clerk, that we didn't lose more people than we did. So once again, it depends on what is going on the particular days, what the governor ends up doing on a daily basis. And even though you may have schedules and well-intentioned plans, it never quite works out the way you planned. Actually, I was supposed to be in Jacksonville addressing the full boys state this evening, and because of the need to be here at the Capitol with the emergency situations that we have around the state, I won't be able to be there. But I did want to come and speak to you here in the House chamber today.